Okay, we're back with the VIP section of the interview with RD. RD had something to say. I'm going to let RD say it. Before he says it, I want to say something for the record because I know the last statement made will be totally twisted like Vince Russo's words always are. So I want to make one thing clear. During the Attitude Era, when I was writing the show, and I was largely responsible for the ratings along with Ed and along with Vince and along with everybody else. It was a team effort. I've said that to nauseum. I want to state for the record right now, I take zero credit for the house show attendance during that time because, first of all, like WCW, I was not booking the house shows. I've never booked a house show in my life. So honestly, I don't even know who was booking the house shows at WCW at the time when nobody was going. I do know for a fact JR was booking those house shows for WWF when they were selling out everywhere. I do not take credit for house show attendance. I do not take credit for pay-per-view buys. Pay-per-views are not written like television. Pay-per-views are written for the pure wrestling fan that wants 3 hours of great wrestling. It's a showcase for wrestling. A pay-per-view is not written like a show. So whatever WWE did back in the day with pay-per-views, I give all that credit to the talent in the ring, their performance, the promotional departments, the marketing departments, the advertising departments, the guys at the WWE that came up with the gimmick for the free chairs. That was all they're doing. I take zero credit for that. As far as the Austin 316 shirts and the Rock Brahma Bull shirts and the DX merchandise, I take no credit for any of that. That was the merchandise people, the designers that figured out what was going to sell, who was going to sell, how much of each product were we going to bring to these shows, what was going to be more appealing to kids, what was going to be more appealing to adults. That was solely on them. So all three departments took the eyeballs of the show that myself and Ed wrote, and they ran with those eyeballs. So, like, I don't take any credit for WCW's low house show numbers and low pay-per-view buys and low merchandise. Guess what, folks? I don't take any credit for the millions and millions and millions of dollars that the WWE made in those areas because that was not my job. Now, RD, go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading this new book, The Death of WCW, 10th Anniversary Edition. Make sure you all pick one up. I'm sorry, you were saying?
You said you had something to say when we ended the audio interview. I said, go ahead, say it.
Oh, we were discussing if we were discussing again for the 35th time what it was that why we were viewing you as a suspect in the death of WCW and how the pay-per-view revenue. I mean, so you're telling me, just so I make sure, again, that your television products would have zero impact on if people would buy pay-per-views. Zero impact.
We can play back this tape 100 times. That was never said at any point on my behalf.
Zero impact.
That was never said. If you want to say that, say it. I never said that.
Well, I'm asking you what percentage would you
said, RD, let me tell you, what is so funny, bro? I don't understand. Why is it funny? Let me tell you what I said. I said, bro, I said my job was to get as many people as I could to watch the television shows. That
Mm-hmm.
was my job. My job was not house shows, pay-per-view buys, merchandise. There were other people in the company that were responsible for that based on the eyeballs that we had watching our television show. That's what I said, bro.
Where people on the television show were saying, I'd have to go back and look and see what the main events were. But let's say it was Scott Steiner and Booker T. So if Scott Steiner was coming out for an interview talking about how he was going to be fighting Booker T at an upcoming pay-per-view, and Booker T came out and said, I'm going to be fighting Scott Steiner at this pay-per-view, all of which you would have scripted, that has zero to do with pay-per-view buys. Just so I'm following along.
RD, I don't know why you keep trying to put words in my mouth. For the second time, I'm going to tell you, no, that is not what I said. So what
So you want
to ask me you want me for a third time to say that?
Well, I think we've probably beaten this into the ground, and people are probably becoming tired of this discussion.
Bro, you know what the funny thing is? Here's the funny thing. The funny thing is, if I was ultimately responsible for all that, right, then I would ultimately be responsible for taking all the credit in those areas at the WWE, and knowing the people that worked in those departments, pay-per-view, house shows, merchandise, personally knowing those people, for me to take credit for the job they did would be absolute ludicrous. So basically, if everything you're saying is true, what I should be saying is, yeah, RD, you are right. All those areas failed because Vince Russo wrote the television. When, like I already stated, bro, I had nothing to do with the writing of the house shows. I wasn't even involved in what was on the house shows. That had nothing to do with me. So I should be saying, yeah, RD, you're right. I failed in all those areas, but just to make things right, all the tens of millions of dollars that were made in the WWE at the time, I was totally responsible for. That statement, bro, would be absolutely ludicrous. So, bro, you can believe that all you want. You and Alvarez can promote that all you want in the second edition of The Death of WCW with 5 guys on the cover that you never interviewed for the book. You just used to sell copies of the book. Here's my question to you, which I really don't understand, RD, because this is what I have a hard time with. This is a philosophical question, because it's not the way I choose to live my life. And when other people live their life that way, from a negative aspect, it intrigues me, because I want to understand where they're coming from and how the mindset works. Why would you want to discredit anybody in a book that is going to their job, probably working, bro, 80 hours a freaking week, on the road, away from their families, doing the best job they possibly could do to support their family, and they're trying to turn out the best product, whether it's the best product or not? What do you get out of discrediting people like that? Bro, do you know how many people come to me and say, Vince, you were at TNA, and they go on their promo about Hogan and Bischoff killing TNA? Do you know how many times, bro, I've said on the record, no, Hogan and Bischoff had nothing to do with what happened at TNA. Those guys showed up like everybody else, worked as hard as everybody else, really believed that they could turn that company around with all their heart and their soul. They believe that. And you know what, RD? It makes me feel good to be able to say that about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. And people know we don't get along. They know the three of us don't get along. But it makes me feel good to say these guys worked as hard as everybody else. It just didn't work out. What is the gain in trying to discredit people, in a book for everybody to read, especially when you said at the top of the interview, Jamie Kellner, who evidently killed WCW and isn't on the book, he's really the one who's responsible, but we're going to take these guys and we're going to drag them through the mud. I just want to understand, like, what really what good comes out of that? If people read your book and think Vince Russo is an absolute imbecile, doesn't know what he's doing, couldn't book a show in his life, what do you take from that? Like self-satisfaction, or it makes me feel like a better person because I never was in the wrestling business, and if I was, I could have done a better job than Vince Russo. I just want to understand, what's the end game to discrediting other people that worked very hard?
I don't view it as discrediting at all. I view it as, this is our opinion. Excuse me. Excuse me. This is our opinions as to what we saw. These are the numbers that back up what our opinions and show that other people felt the exact same way. I mean, that's how I view it. As far as having any concerns about if some kind of lost something, I would have never wanted to have booked for a major wrestling company. That's not something I would have ever wanted to do. Whenever I booked for independent wrestling companies, anybody that had ever seen any of the horrible stuff I ever did, it wasn't 1/10. I mean, anything that I'd ever said about anyone else, it was always something that my stuff was always a million times worse than anybody else did. So no, it has nothing to do with that. I just view it as, this is something people wanted to know about. So they wanted my opinion on it. I wrote about it. And, we don't discredit. That's always been one of the things I've always tried to do since day one at WrestleCrap.com. My goal is always, I want to make people laugh. And, people can say, how many, like sometimes I'll have people say, how many people visit the website a day? I haven't, for the almost 15 years that website's been in business. I've never even looked to see how many people visit or anything else, because I just want to make people laugh. Whenever I started to write the book, The Death of WCW, that was something where ECW Press had come to me after the first WrestleCrap book and said, that book did well for us. Would you consider writing another book? And I said, yeah, I would. I don't want to write another one that's exactly like that one. But my goal, even whenever I was writing for WrestleCrap, is to make people laugh. And it's not something where I'm trying to make people laugh at, look at how dumb this person is, or look at, one of my best friends ever in the wrestling business was John Tenta. He was just a wonderful man. But I never said, boy, was he an idiot dressing up like a shark. My whole thing was, someone had him dress up like a shark. That is what he was paid to do, is go dress up like a shark. Isn't that ludicrous? But that's not to take anything away from John Tenta whenever he was the shark. My whole thing was, look at how silly what we see in front of us is. That is not something where I'm trying to discredit any people. It's something where I'm trying to look at something, say, look, this guy dressed up as a shark. Isn't that silly? And whenever it was, the site and R.D. Reynolds and people's opinions of me, they wanted to know more. They wanted me to write more. So whenever I wrote the book, The Death of WCW, a lot of it was my opinions, but I backed it up with numbers. I'm not trying to discredit anyone. I'm not trying to say, excuse me, Eric Bischoff's an idiot, Vince Russo's an idiot. I'm saying this is what they presented. I don't think that a lot of times it was good product. Other people didn't think it was good product either, because they're not going to do anything with merchandise. They're not buying anything. They're not doing anything to support the product with their money. And you can say, well, I wasn't in charge of house shows. I wasn't in charge of merchandise. I wasn't in charge of pay-per-views. It doesn't matter. If you're presenting something that people want to get involved with, if Perfect example. Like if you a hot television show, The Simpsons, back in the day. Okay, they made Simpsons figures, and actually they still do. So if The Simpsons were putting out a television show that enough people were watching, if enough eyeballs were on, and people got really very passionate about The Simpsons, they would go buy Simpsons action figures. They would do it because they watched the television show, and that led them to buy other products. What was happening is a television show was being presented, and you're saying, well, it would have taken a year. Okay, fine. I'll accept that argument. But what was being presented was not getting people to want to do anything from a monetary standpoint to monetize the product. That is where I have a problem with, honestly, the people on the front cover of the book. And
Well,
and I also want to state that I don't think it's fair to say, well, I just discredit people and I say bad things about them. There's a lot of positive things I say in the book about people that are on the front cover. I said Eric Bischoff was a genius. I said that Vince Russo we talked about you going in and whenever you would have the concussions and that you were putting your life on the line. There were positive things that were said throughout the book, about all these
you
people.
RD, I have to ask you this because you've yet to explain how the ratings, were going up. I'm not even going to argue with you, bro, even slightly. In your own words, even slightly. You've yet to explain how more eyeballs were watching the show. Now, I think we would have to agree if more eyeballs are watching the show, that would have to mean that more people are watching the show. You've yet to explain how, and bro, more people were watching the show because the last show before Ed and I came in was a 2.6. The last show when I left was a 3.5. Anybody can go look that up. WCW Nitro ratings, the numbers are all there. So from the last show before I started to the show where I left, the company had grown 1 ratings point in a 3-month span. First of all, you've yet to explain how the company could have increased in 3 months 1 rating point and more people were watching the show, prior to us coming aboard, but yet we weren't selling more merch and people weren't going to house shows and people weren't buying pay-per-views. Bro, honestly, with all due respect, if you know anything about business, are you going to blame those things on the guys that were in charge of the writing of the television for 3 months? You're going to blame that on guys that came into something that was sinking, and you're going to look at numbers after 3 months. Bro, you know what that's like saying, bro? This is what it's like saying. It's like if I hire Tony La Russa tomorrow to manage the Texas Rangers, and Texas lost 100 games last year, and they were only getting worse. And now Tony La Russa is on the job for 3 months. And in those 3 months, more people aren't coming yet. More people aren't buying merch yet. More people aren't, paying to come to the games because Tony La Russa has had 3 months. He hasn't rebuilt this team yet into a winner. After those 3 months, bro, you blame Tony La Russa for everything that was put into place before he got there. I mean, from a business point of view, RD, you're going to rate somebody's performance after a 3-month trial?
You would have to see some signs that things were improving, and I would argue that we weren't seeing any signs that things were improving other than the
You
ratings
just said the
very
rating. Okay,
slightly.
well, but you just said nothing, and then you said accept the ratings. So you did see signs that something was improving. So finish your statement. Don't just, bro, you laugh, but you say things that aren't true. The last show was 2.6. When I left, it was a 3.6. Oh, well, I'd have to see signs that things were improving. An increase of a rating point in 3 months is not improvement for you?
It wasn't. Well, first of all,
Why is that funny
spinning
to
the
you,
numbers a
bro?
little bit.
I
I'd
don't
have to say
understand why
again,
that.
it was
I don't,
not a.
bro.
It's not a
Explain to me
three
first.
six when you
Explain to
left.
me
But
first
the
why
other
that's
thing, the
funny
other
to you.
thing, the other thing, the other thing. Let me
When I
finish.
give
Okay,
you a
I do
fact,
have a point.
when I lay out a fact to you, why
Yes,
is
let
a
me lay out a
fact
fact
funny
to
to
you.
you? Why is that funny to you?
Can I lay out my fact to you?
No, answer my question and then yes.
You do realize you're not comparing equal numbers whenever you're comparing that 2.6, which was a 3-hour nitro.
Yeah.
Your last
We average
nitro
three.
was
Hey, bro,
a
before you
2-hour nitro.
make a fool out of yourself, Ed and I had 13 shows before you make an absolute idiot out of yourself. Ed and I had 13 shows. 11 of those shows were 3-hour shows. Those 11 shows averaged a 3.2 rating. So before you make a total idiot out of yourself, not knowing the numbers, 11 of the 13 shows were 3-hour shows where we averaged a 3.2 rating. And I'm so glad I can get that out in the open because that's the BS that you guys have been spinning for the last decade. 11 of the 13 shows were 3-hour shows. If you did your homework, you would clearly see that. Comment.
Why would the show? Well, you do realize that the third hour of that were now being removed, the company had to pay makeup money because to advertisers because they were buying that ad time that now was no longer available.
What does that have to do with what I just said, bro? You just tried to make a case that our rating was up because we had me and Ed were writing 2-hour shows and not 3-hour shows. You come back with, oh, but the advertisers, they had to be given their money back because what does that have to do with what I just said? I just discredited something that you and Alvarez and a lot of other people have been spinning for years, that the success that Ed and I had in those first 3 months was because it was a 2-hour show, not a 3-hour show. The ratings show you that 11 3-hour shows averaged a 3.2 rating. And rather than apologize for lying, you want to tell me that advertisers had to be given their money back. I should be the one laughing at you now, bro.
Okay, then fine. You're saying that your average rating was over 3.0, right?
It was 3.2, bro.
During the 3-hour shows.
I've looked at the
3-hour shows. Can I
the
continue,
ratings
please?
up, bro.
Can I please? But whenever at the beginning of this interview, I said, well, let's take a look at the average of the 11 weeks of your 3-hour shows versus the 11 weeks of the prior 11 weeks before you got there. You said those numbers weren't valid. How is one valid and then the other is not valid?
No, bro, how did I say those numbers aren't valid? What I said was, should we really be looking at what the product was doing 3 months before we got there, or perhaps 6 to 8 weeks?
If you want to do a fair sample size,
bro,
of course
you're not answering the question. You got called out on a lie. You and Alvarez, have been living on that forever because God forbid you guys present the facts. I just hit you with the facts because you started saying our success was based on us writing a 2-hour show. I corrected you based on facts. So go ahead, bro. Take this in any direction.
Now you're calling me a liar,
You
and
are
B,
a
you're
liar.
putting words
You
in
are
my
a
mouth.
liar, bro. You and Alvarez and everybody
Three.
else have been lying about that for years when 11 of the 13 shows were 3-hour shows. You are a liar. You tried to paint the picture that our 3-month success was that we wrote 2-hour shows and not 3-hour shows. That is a lie. There's no other way to spin that, bro. Try to spin it all you want when you're laughing, and that's a lie, bro.
So
If you lied, say you lied, and I'll respect you more. Yeah, go ahead, read them, bro. Read them out. Read them out loud, bro. Read them out loud. Go ahead. Say that you lied, and I'll respect you more.
No. I did a calculation for you. Since you want to compare 3-hour shows to 3-hour shows, we'll do that. That's fair comparison. Yes. So during your
that's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about I just called you out and you can't admit that you lied. I'm not talking about comparing three. I'm not talking about comparing three. You just tried to discredit me to my face, saying that we didn't write 3-hour shows, we wrote 2-hour shows.
That's not what I said.
Okay, all right, bro. Okay.
You're making things up. If you're not
going
to let me finish.
Bro, people are going to see this interview. They could judge. I'm not the one sitting here smug. I'm not the one sitting here smug and laughing at the facts, RD, because, bro, you haven't laid down a single fact. Not a single fact. In this entire interview, everything is based on your opinion. And, bro, I got to be honest with you. For as many people as you think care about your opinion, there's about 5 times as many that don't, especially from somebody that's never, bro, you never been in the wrestling business. Alvarez has never been in the wrestling business. You guys couldn't possibly understand how things work. You haven't given me one fact on this show, except that Meltzer told you WCW lost $62 million. You haven't given me one fact. Not one.
I'm going to give you a fact right now. Are you ready? On the 1999 3-hour episodes of Nitro that Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo wrote, they average a 3.18 rating.
That's a 3.2. You in the wrestling business, bro, you round everything off. Just so you know, that's how it works in wrestling. It gets rounded off. That's a 3.2. But go ahead. Okay.
3.2. That was those were 11 shows.
Okay.
They guys wrote. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
The 11 shows before you showed up.
Okay.
Rating was a 3.2.
Okay. What did the last 6 do before we showed up? I'm just curious. What did the last month and a half do before we got there?
The last 6 and your last 6.
No. This is what I'm asking you, bro. What did we walk into? Not what was the rating 3 months ago. What did we walk into 6 months or 4 weeks prior? Because that's the direction the company was heading in. Do you not understand that? The company isn't heading in the direction of 3 months ago. The company is heading in the direction of what happened in the last month. Bro, see, it's hard for me because you don't understand because you've never been in the business. Bro,
I know numbers, Vince. Trust me, I know numbers.
We look at ratings 1 month at a time. That's how you look at the block of ratings, great. And that's how you measure. You think Vince McMahon cares right now what Raw drew 3 months ago? Vince is trying to improve his product month by month by month. You think he's looking back on freaking whatever month it was, August? You don't look at it that way, bro. What was the average the month before we got there? Why is that so hard?
I'm going to calculate that for you right now.
4 shows before we got there. It's easy.
I'm going to calculate it for you. Shut up for a minute.
I don't know what you're calculating. It's on my website, bro. Save yourself the time. I already did it for you.
I want to make sure the calculations are proper. So
I'm going to lie about the numbers now?
I would never just besmirch you.
It's just, bro.
You're okay. So I have this. Stop. Let me finish. There is no need to get all violent or anything, Mr. Russo.
I give I because you know
what month would you like me to do? Would you like it to be the last month of
no,
the year?
I like the 4 nitros, 1 month worth of television.
Got it, and I have that.
And I started. And I can also tell you, bro, it's real easy to find because the last 2 numbers were like a 2.5 and a 2.6. So it's very easy for you to find, bro.
Right.
Go from the 2.5 and the 2.6 and go backwards too.
What? Okay. What am I comparing? I have those numbers before you got there. Which month would you like me to compare those numbers to?
Bro, I like the last 4 weeks and the
last 4 weeks of your writing.
No, the last 4 weeks before Ed and I arrived.
I have that. What am I comparing it to?
What was our starting point? And what was the ending point when Vince Russo went home? What is so difficult about that? You're having a hard time with it, bro.
I'm having a hard time.
Okay, bro, tell me what the 4
I want to know what I'm comparing it to. And you said I'm not allowed to.
Bro,
so you're skewing the numbers. I know you hate it whenever I bring up the fact that it goes from a 3 hour to a 2 hour.
These guys dance around facts. That's what they do. The 4 shows before Ed and I arrived on the scene were September 20th through October 11th. Those are 4 shows, a month of programming that showed the direction Nitro was heading in. Those 4 shows averaged a 2.9 rating. Those 4 shows, the last 2 were a 2.5 and a 2.6. So I'm even going backwards to build the rating up to give them the benefit of the doubt. Ed and I come in, we do 13 shows. Those 13 shows average a 3.2 rating, with the last show being a 3.5 rating.
Which was a 2-hour show, and you threw out the...
I can't change those numbers. I can't alter those numbers. RD can laugh about them and have a jovial time about them, but that's exactly the problem.
That's
exactly the problem with people with opinions. You're trying to get your opinions across. You print the book. You put 5 guys on the cover that have nothing to do with the death of WCW. You don't interview.
Nothing to do with it.
Laugh. You don't interview any of the 5 guys on the cover.
Nothing to do with it. Then we're
laugh about anything. We have to laugh about that.
You have to laugh about the fact that you think that those had nothing to do with the death of the company.
You know what I'm going to do, bro? Let's do this. Let's let the people decide who won and lost this debate, bro. Because every time numbers come up, oh, you didn't sell foam hands, or no people were going to house shows. You've yet to explain how numbers
if you're using one. Okay, here's what I would do then. Okay, shut up. Let me talk. If I was using your logic, okay. And let's say that I worked at McDonald's.
My logic is facts.
And shut up. Let me finish. Let's say I worked at McDonald's, and you know what I'm going to do?
Hey, let me ask you a question. When I came on your show, how many times did I tell you to shut up? That's the difference between you and I, my friend. Go ahead.
That's because you never let me talk. I always let you talk on my show.
I think you've talked quite a bit on this show. Go ahead, bro. The stage is yours. Go.
Your argument that it doesn't, the only thing that matters is ratings numbers. That's what you keep telling me.
I never said that, bro. I said that
else matters. And ratings have, what you write has no effect at all on pay-per-view buys. It has no effect on house shows. It has no effect on anything. It lives in a bubble. So I understand that. I understand Vince Russo entirely now. Yes.
I'm saying okay. It's insane to me, bro. The way you're trying. Every time numbers come up, we can't talk about numbers. Now, somewhere along the line, all I said was that all that matters is television ratings. Merchandise doesn't matter. Live events don't matter. Pay-per-view.
No. I said that you write has no effect on those numbers.
I didn't say that. I didn't. Where did I say that? In this interview?
It does.
Bro, you can't lie while I'm sitting right here. I did not say that. But hey, people at home, you can play this interview back 50 times. Those words never came out of my mouth. But hey, listen, RD, you and Brian can go write a book, tell all your lies, all your tales with no facts and no numbers, all you want. You're not going to come on here in front of me and basically lie and say I said things I didn't say, bro.
So I'm following along now with the new angle. Is that okay? You do accept the fact that what you presented on television would have some effect on pay-per-view revenue or on other revenue in the company.
No, not that it would, that it should.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
So then why, when you were in charge, did all the numbers go the wrong direction?
Well, yeah, I'm asking you the question. And see what I said, bro, about the way you twist stuff? Why did all the numbers go? Can I finish? Why did all the numbers go in the wrong direction? Those words just came out of your mouth.
Yeah, they did.
We just established the last month in WCW was a 2-9, and the 13 shows that Ed and I wrote were a 3-2. We just established that, but yet a minute later, you've already convinced yourself all the numbers were down. You just said all the numbers were down, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That one number that
the most important number, by the way.
No, it's not. The most important number is how much money the company makes or loses. Okay. Nothing else matters.
Merchandising department is more important than television, RD. And how many years have you spent in the wrestling business? How many companies have you worked for?
It's where
that you've had meetings with Vince McMahon and you've had meetings with people in merchandise and pay-per-view and house shows that you have this fountain of knowledge. How many years have you put in working with these people?
You know how many years I have put in making money in companies? You really want to know this?
Was that my question? My question was, how many years have you put in the professional wrestling business in a high profile job? That was my question.
Just so I'm following along then. No one should ever be allowed to write books about the Civil War again, correct?
That's not what I'm saying.
No one in the Civil War is alive.
I asked you a question. I asked you how many years you have in the professional wrestling business. Why are we talking about the Civil War?
Because it's the same point.
It's a simple question, bro. Here's my point.
What you're saying is no one can ever write. So, like sports writers, unless someone is playing for the San Francisco Giants. No one should be able to write about the San Francisco Giants except the people that work for the San Francisco Giants.
Bro, they could write whatever they want and make up a lot of stuff just like you and Alvarez did. Anybody has the right to do that. Anybody has the right. Bro, I could write a book. I could write a book tomorrow morning on Willie Mays and what an a-hole he was. I never met the guy. Bro, has Brian Alvarez ever had a conversation with me that he's such an authority on Vince Russo and he knows Vince Russo that he can go write a book
on record? Of course he's talked with you before.
Oh, well, that shows you how memorable that was to me, bro. That shows you what a memorable conversation it was.
But your point being that he talked with you. I've talked with you.
I know you have.
So how am I not allowed to write about it?
Bro, I didn't say that. I'm talking about credibility, bro. Bro, okay. Wait, let me finish for a second, RD. RD, you're talking about pay-per-view buys and house shows and merchandise and where they fit in with the ratings of a television show and what importance is put on them and how those certain areas work. And does the writer have any hands-on work experience with those groups? Do they work together? Do they not work together? What are the budgets? Who are the people in charge? You have no credibility when it comes to that. I I was there. I worked with those people. I knew what the budget was. I knew what they were spending. I knew what was coming in. I knew why. I have experience there. You've yet to answer the simple question. If the television went from a 2.9 to a 3.2 and more people were watching the show on Monday night, then why did everything else not follow suit? I'm giving you a reasonable, logical answer. Everything did not follow suit because it was only 3 months, bro. Tony La Russa isn't going to bring the Texas Rangers, who lost 100 games the year before, to the World Series in 3 months. Nobody is going to do that. That's the logical explanation to everything you're basing this theory on, that I had anything to do with the debt to WCW. You're basing it on 3 months that I worked for a company, bro. That is not ludicrous to you?
Well, actually, the only thing we have discussed is your first run. I would argue the second run was where the
you can argue that all you want, because I don't take responsibility for that. So
of course you don't. Why
I
not?
wasn't in control of it. Of course, I'm not. I'm going to take responsibility of something I wasn't in control of.
Oh, okay.
Why am I going to do that? I wasn't in control of that, bro.
Sure.
I wasn't the one making the decisions. I'm going to take responsibility for that. Why?
Sure.
I'll take all the responsibilities those 3 months working with Ed, when Ed and myself called the shots. End of story. I'm not going to take responsibility for the other 6 months I worked in the company, 4 or 5 of which I wasn't in control of. Are you out of your freaking mind, bro? Sure. That's like me asking you to take responsibility for everything that comes out of Brian Alvarez's mouth. Come on, bro. I'm not going to take responsibility for that.
Okay, whatever you say.
I've said that on the record before,
whatever
bro.
You say.
I'll take responsibility for something that was in my control, and something that I was responsible for, and something where I made the decisions. And if it was going to be successful or fail, it was based on my decision. I'm not going to take responsibility for, somebody coming in and saddling me with somebody that we don't even get along, and we're not even on the same page when it comes to wrestling psychology. I'm not going to take risk. That wasn't my decision. You need to talk to Brad Siegel about that. Don't try to pull that on me. You want to talk about what I did when I was in control? We'll talk about that all day long. Don't put anything off on me that was out of my control.
In the book, again, we stated that since now we're not allowed, since your other run, it was apparently not your run, and it was something else. Okay, fine. We will only discuss your one little 13-week run. Okay,
Brian, JRD, we don't have to discuss anything anymore. Everything's out here on tape. Whoever wants to watch this now can watch it. They can decide for themselves. Yep. I want to ask you.
Of course, it would be better if you would actually read the book to see what I have to say. Instead of what I'm saying on a podcast interview.
You want to know the cold harsh truth? Okay, I am not going to read a book that I don't respect because I am on the cover of it and the finger is being pointed at me, and I was never.
You don't even know what we wrote in the book about you. If you don't read it.
Interviewed for the book. I am not
ask you to refute anything. You said no.
Hey, bro, on your opinion or Brian Alvarez's opinion, when you didn't even have the decency to interview me, bro. So
now you're making things up because I have an email from you where I said, would you like to refute anything in the book? You said no. I printed that email in the book, and then I also said people should visit pyroandballyhoo.com because
I'm talking about
I was being very courteous. But now you're taking shots at me, call me a liar and everything else.
I'm talking about the original book, not the revision of the book that was already written. I'm talking about the original book, bro. That's what I'm talking about.
You sure? Something that was written 10 years ago. Yeah.
Now, and bro, guess what? You got to live with it, just like I got to live with things that I did 10 years ago.
I have no problem sleeping and living with that.
You know what? You should. You put a guy on the cover of the book. You insinuated something very, very serious, and you never had the professionalism to interview that person. You should.
I offered. You said no.
No, with the original book, bro.
But I offered, and you said no.
Not a revision when the book is already written. The original book.
You said no.
With the revision, bro. Not the again, ladies and gentlemen. You go back and listen to.
Okay. Okay, let's go back, Doc Brown.
He already stated I was not interviewed.
You're saying no to me now when we get along. Supposedly, allegedly, we get along. You're saying no to me now, so you would have said yes to me 10 years ago? No way.
Here's the only thing I ask, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If the shoe were on the other foot right now, and I've done your show, and never once have I told you to shut up. If the shoe were on the other foot, okay, and Vince Russo is sitting here 10 years after the fact, however long it is, bro. You keep going back with 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 12 years ago. I don't know when the book was written. Let's say 10 years ago for argument's sake, okay? And 10 years ago, I wrote a book. And in the book, I heavily insinuated that Vince Russo was part of the reason or involved with the death of WCW. But which was strictly my opinion, none of it based on fact. Because
we had numbers, but that's okay. I know you don't like to talk those.
We only have numbers from Dave Meltzer.
That's okay. We have numbers from Nielsen and buy rates and everything else.
So do I, and you can see them on my website at Pyro and Ballyhoo.
Sure, whatever you say.
Not only are we going to accuse Vince Russo of being a part of this and try to tarnish everything that the man and the father and the husband worked hard at accomplishing throughout his life. Not only that, but what we're also going to do is we're going to put his picture on the cover of the book so we can sell copies of the book. And oh, by the way, one more thing, we're not going to interview him for the book. If that were me right now, bro, I would be apologizing for that. The fact that you're not apologizing for that and that you see no wrong in any of that whatsoever is what's getting up my ire and why we're arguing right now. Because after 10 years, you can't look at that and say, man, I accused that guy of a lot of things. I pointed the finger at him. I even put his picture on the cover of the book. And yet I never had the professionalism to interview him. The fact that you can't say that, RD, that's where you and I have a difference.
Well, I will say for the record that I apologize. I did not know you 12 years ago or whenever it was I wrote the book to ask your opinion on the matter.
No, to get
your opinion on the matter. Yes.
To get the story as it happened.
Get the opinion. I apologize for that. I am very skeptical that you would have talked to me since you and I get along now. And like you said at the beginning of the interview,
I don't know if I like you so much anymore.
We're friends. Hopefully, we're still friends.
I don't know if I like you so much anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I still like you. I'll let you slide. But that you would not, whenever we were friends before this interview. I gave you the opportunity, and you didn't want to refute the facts as I was presenting them then. Right. So I doubt seriously that 12 years ago you would have. But in hindsight, you are correct. I apologize. I should have talked to you. My bad.
That's not hard. That's not, bro. I've said things about people that I wish I wouldn't have said, and guess what? I turn around and I apologize.
I apologize to you.
RD, can I ask you something on a completely different level?
I sure hope it's on a different level.
And listen, I don't know how much I like you anymore. It's going to depend the rest of this interview. But let me ask you this. RD, this is a serious question because I'm asking you your opinion. Okay? Okay.
Yep.
RD, from 1996 to October of 1999, okay? Bro, obviously, I was heavily involved with the writing of, WWE Raw. And bro, I always say heavily involved. Ed was writing the show. Vince was writing the show. There were producers, directors, talent. A lot of people were involved. I was heavily involved. Okay. Now, RD, from 1996 to 1999, okay, you know what the Attitude Era did. I'm not here to pat myself on the back. Honestly, bro, I could care less. I want wrestling to do that well again today. I really do. I'm sick of talking about the Attitude Era. And this isn't about that. It's a question I got for you. So,
Okay.
RD, during those 3 years, would you pretty much agree that, with the internet wrestling community on the internet, would you pretty much agree that Vince Russo is very rarely spoken about?
As far as that era of, as far as being given credit, or what do you
No,
mean?
no, nothing about credit, bro. I'm talking about when you go to a website today, to this day, Vince Russo, there's a good chance he'll be in a headline 4 out of 7 days. What I'm talking about is while I was doing my time during that 3-year stretch, would you constantly go to the internet and read Vince Russo this, Vince Russo that, Vince Russo this, Vince Russo that, having nothing to do? I'm not talking about the credit. I'm talking about what was Vince Russo during that time even a presence at all?
No, because your name was not out there.
Okay. All right.
Not to my knowledge. The only
Okay.
time I remember was Vic Venom on a couple of old whatever they were, Mania.
Now,
or
RD,
something.
I want to ask you this,
Mhm.
okay? And bro, I want you to be honest with me, because can I tell you something, RD? As much as like I'm still on the fence about you right now, this is something that really I think about a lot. Because can I tell you something, bro? I honestly believe that this is the crux of the ill will towards Vince Russo. I honestly believe it. And the reason why I say that, bro, is because my booking in WCW for the first 3 months, that, again, we could talk about the other time. I'm just not going to take full responsibility for that. But the first 3 months, bro, it was the WWE model. So it was much of the same of what we did in WCW. So the style was the same. So what you were seeing on WWE, Ed and I brought over to WCW because that was our style. Okay. Now, bro, even when I came to WCW, bro, I remember Ed and myself did 1, maybe 2 interviews of WWE writers jumping ship and going to WCW. Okay. There was no, bro, it wasn't all over the websites. There were no Vince Russo stories out there. It was a news story, so it was covered. And, that was pretty much the extent of it. Would you agree that, after those 3 months, like, with Ed, my name is still not out there as much as it was, as much as it is now?
I guess I'm not really following where this is going.
RD, here's where it's going. Okay, I know for a fact, bro, my first 3 months in WCW, Vince Russo was not on the internet, was not being talked about every other day, just like he wasn't at WWE. The fact of the matter was, bro, he was the writer of the show. He was the guy behind the scenes writing the show. Okay, bro, now all of a sudden, April 10th comes. April 10th, 1999. Okay? For the first time, Vince Russo goes out on a live Nitro and cuts a heel New York scumbag, arrogant, a-hole promo. Okay, for my very first promo. In that first promo, I accuse Ric Flair of being, what, on the bottom of my shoe. I said that in my very first promo. Okay. That was Vince Russo, the character that I knew from experience. I had to take my persona and I had to magnify that a million times over and be larger than life if I ever wanted to generate any heat for myself and for WCW. Okay? RD, from that moment on, and you can go back and check, and Alvarez can go back and check, and Meltzer can go back and check, whoever wants to go back and check. From that moment on of that promo, where there was now a face to the name, and he came across as an arrogant New York a-hole. From that moment on, the Vince Russo bashing began. Every single day now, the writing of the show and this segment and that segment and everything that was happening on the show, Vince Russo, the person, was being blamed and dragged through the mud, and he's an idiot and he's a moron and he doesn't know what he's doing immediately after that promo. I had been writing television in the very same capacity for 3 to 5 years prior. No mention of the Vince Russo name. Vince Russo goes out and cuts a heel promo the next day for the next 15 years. All everybody can talk about is what a horse's backside Vince Russo is. I'm asking you the question, bro. How much of my on-air persona and my character and the person I wanted people to believe that I was, how much of that drew into my immediate criticism of everything else I did from that point forward up to this very day? If the character Vince Russo had never set foot in a wrestling ring, do you think it would have went on business as usual? He's a writer behind the scenes. We don't talk about the writers. Or do you think all of a sudden, even though you couldn't see him, even though you couldn't hear him, now out of the clear blue sky, we're going to start talking about Vince Russo?
I would say that is not a 100%. I understand where you're saying that your heel character made people believe, excuse me, there was a negative connotation to that. I would argue that's not the case. So at least in my case, or in Brian's case, that wouldn't be the case. So in the writing of the book, we wouldn't have viewed it that way, of course. We would have viewed it not unlike people view George Lucas for the new Star Wars movies. And people, you know, they knew George Lucas was behind it. So you're kind of like George Lucas here. And we did not like what we saw, but George Lucas, you know, wasn't on in the movies or anything, but we knew who was behind the scenes writing this, and we felt that it was not, you know, a movement in a positive direction. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, RD, but I would say this, and bro, I remember this vividly. I gave you the case with Meltzer and the This Is Your Life, The Rock, okay? Bro, the internet wrestling community didn't like what we were doing during the Attitude Era because it wasn't wrestling, bro. It was sports entertainment. It wasn't wrestling, and the internet wrestling community, regardless of what the ratings were, they didn't like the product. My name wasn't mentioned back then.
Your name wasn't mentioned back then, but, and I know you hate to, I don't even why I'm going to bring this up. But all the revenue drivers, none of them were hurt by what was being presented on television. And I would argue in the WCW case, they were. And that was our argument in the book.
So basically, are you trying to say that once revenue streams were affected, the internet wrestling community, you know, started bad-mouthing me and bashing me, and it had nothing to do with content?
No, I'm saying that was my take on it in the book. I'm not going to speak for the whole internet wrestling community. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
So
And
you
there
started
are a lot of
looking at
good
me.
people out there. There are a lot of good people out there in the internet wrestling community. There are a lot of people that aren't so good in the internet wrestling community. Here's what this is my takeaway from this interview, if I may. I really want. I think we should get a Kickstarter started. And this is why I want this. I want a Kickstarter so that we can send you. You have a very, listening to you, I feel kind of, I feel kind of, I feel kind of sad because it's obvious you take all these criticisms to you just so much to heart. And you, in a lot of ways, you need to do what I've learned to do years ago. I mean, I would get reviews of the WrestleCrap books, and people would say, "Oh, those WrestleCrap, the WrestleCrap book." I'll never forget one of the first interviews, or one of the first reviews I ever saw of it. I was like, "Man, I put my heart and I put my soul into this book. I really hope people like it." And one of the absolute first first reviews I read of it was "WrestleCrap is crap," and it was talking about how terrible my book was and everything else. And that affected me, but I quickly learned all these criticisms, all these things that people say, you just got to put them in a balloon and let it go. And what I would like to do is start a Kickstarter for you, Vince Russo, to where you could go and you could meet with a counselor of some sort, so you could take all these negative things that people supposedly say about you and you just put it in a balloon and you let it go. Because at the end of the day, none of it really matters. You've got the same people saying the same stuff they said for 15 years or whatever. You're trying to psychoanalyze and say, oh, maybe it's because my heel character was so strong. That's what people are doing. Who cares? You were paid for many years, and this has kind of always been my standpoint. You were paid for how many years to be in the wrestling business? And you were paid to get ratings up. Okay, great. I would argue that that was a foolish, idiotic way to pay someone to run a wrestling company, to do something for a wrestling company, because everything needs to work together. It needs to work in synergy. What I present on television, it needs to work so that people will go, man, I really got to go buy this pay-per-view. Man, I really want to get this.
I'm going to let you finish. I just want to get this thought in before you go on. But see, you said something very important there, bro. You said, I think that's an idiotic way, or whatever word you use, to hire somebody who's going to be running a wrestling company. Bro, I wasn't hired to run a wrestling company. They hired me to write the show.
Right.
Okay. All right. Bro, that you saying that though, RD, I want you to understand it's two completely different things, bro. Bill Bush was running the wrestling company at the time. Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara were hired to write a television show. That's very important. Okay, go ahead, bro.
And I accept that. But my point being, if you're hiring someone in a capacity that is going to be the crown jewel of your wrestling company, it's going to be the television, and you're writing things for that television show, you need to have those people not being paid in a vacuum, in a bubble, where what they do, what they present, it needs to drive other revenue streams. It can't be something where they only look, okay, I'm just going to look at this number. I want to get it up 0.2 of a point. At the end of the day, that 0.2 of a point, if that's all you're being paid on, that's a very foolish way to run any type of company. It would be like saying to somebody that runs a restaurant, hey, we want you to sell more soda, but we don't really care, when you're out as a waiter, for instance. We don't care if you sell anything else. We just want you to sell soda. Well, but you also need to make money on everything else. So you want to provide something that gets people to spend on everything. And back to my point originally, what we need to do, we need to get this Kickstarter started, because you're carrying all this stuff on you. It's got to be weighting you down.
I'm going to tell you. Okay, I'm going to address that. Listen, let me address a couple things here. Okay, let me address this. Now, RD, you have to understand, and this is why I think you You don't have all the facts, as neither do I. When I don't have the facts, bro, I say I don't have the facts. But I would have to think, bro, okay? When the NWO started, and Hogan did the gimmick, and WCW is kicking on all four burners. They're making money over fist, bro. They can't do anything wrong. I would have to believe that budgets across the board are now monetizing from that. They're getting more money to do more things because the company is generating more revenue. I would have to believe that. Okay, now, bro, I don't think you'd argue this. I'm working at WWE at the time. WCW created their own hole where they drove NWO into the ground, in my opinion. See how I always say that?
Absolutely.
Wait, let me just say this, where it didn't mean anything anymore. It meant nothing. All of a sudden, bro, WW goes on this amazing run. WCW is right back where it started. Okay. And, Eric Bischoff is out of a job. That's the point it got to. Eric Bischoff is out of a job. Now, again, RD, this is what I would look at. And this is the question, like, I would have asked, had these ideologies been brought up to me a while ago. Now, RD, in any business, you would have to think that while the company was making X amount of money, and then they were looking at the budgets of these various departments, pay-per-view, merchandise, and house shows, live events, you would have to think, bro, as the ratings are coming down and coming down and coming down, the company is now making less money. As the company is now making less money, bro, now all those departments are getting their budgets cut. Now pay-per-view department doesn't have as much money as it did when, NWO was on top. They don't have maybe merchandise. Rather than come up with 100 new items this month, we can only come up with 50 new items. So as the revenue went down with WCW, bro, so did these budgets across the board. Their revenue came down. The money wasn't there anymore. Okay. So, bro, with all that happening, okay, here come Ed Ferrara and myself. We come into the company. 3 months go by. And in those 3 months, I mean, house shows didn't go up. The pay-per-views didn't go up. The merchandise sales didn't go up because 3 months is not enough time to turn any company around. Bro, when I was with the WWE, and anybody can go back and track the numbers and look at the tracking, bro, for us to go from a 3 to a 4, it took over a year. It took over a year to get to that next level with the rating. And I told WCW up front, guys, we're not turning this thing around in a day. It's not going to happen. That's not the way wrestling works. You need at least a year before this starts paying off. And again, bro, I was going on my experience based on WWE and the numbers and the growth of the company. So all I'm trying to say is, bro, the budgets had been cut. They weren't working with the same money at the time. I'm sure a lot of people lost their job. They bring me and Ed in. We go in a direction for 3 months. You could start seeing little ticks here and there, little ticks across the board. Absolutely not, bro. We're not there yet. But as ratings grow, then, house shows is going to start coming along. Then merch is going to start coming along. Then we're making a little bit more money. Now we're going to be able to put a little bit more money back in those departments as we rebuild the company. I just, again, like, to me, RD, it's like that's business, bro. That's how any business works. If Bill Bush would have asked me that day, Vince, do you think you and Ed can turn this business around? The ratings and the buy rates and the pay-per-view business and the house shows and the merchandise in 3 months, I would have said, Bill, that is absolutely impossible. And if he would have said, well, Vince, we need you to do it in 3 months, I would have said, Bill, I can't accept the job. That's not going to happen. That's not the way, bro, any business works. Bro, look, I mean, RD, look at what it's taking them to establish the WWE network. I don't think it's always going to be at 770 buys, but what they're going to realize is, bro, they're going to realize we have to change the programming. Maybe we need original content. Maybe we need original programming. Then what they're going to do, bro, is they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to start adding into the budget to produce more original content or things that people are going to be interested in, bro. As the budget increases, the product on television increases. Now there's an original show about this or an original show about this. All of a sudden, now we're at 800,000 buys. Now the network is making a little bit more money. Let's put some more money into it. Bro, that's just how any business is built. So I guess at the end of the day, bro, my biggest argument is, how could anybody who understands anything about business whatsoever have expected myself and Ed Ferrara to walk into that company where it was at that point and turn around every single revenue stream in 3 months? I mean, no, bro. I couldn't have done that. I wouldn't have taken the job. As far as the therapy part, RD, I want to explain this to you because I want you to understand this. RD, I need therapy. I need to go to a counselor. I'm cheap. I refuse to do that. Okay.
Why my Kickstarter idea makes perfect sense.
Okay, I'm with that. But RD, I want to explain something to you because this is very important to me, And RD, I'm going to say this out loud to you, and I hope you don't mind, but I don't think it's a big secret, okay? And I'm going to let you say it. If you don't want me to say it, okay, then I won't say it. But RD, when you and I were going back and forth yesterday, direct message, right? Mm-hmm. Why did you tell me you had to go to bed early?
Because I was getting up to teach Sunday school.
Okay. Right there. RD, you have to understand something about me. I became a Christian guy 10 years ago, okay? My life completely changed to the point, RD, that I'll be honest with you, bro, I'm not capable. I wouldn't be capable of going back on a wrestling show and cutting the type of promos I did. As a matter of fact, when I did it in my last years at TNA with Dusty Rhodes, because I became a Christian, I couldn't do it anymore. It just wasn't in me. And that's why we did that little angle where you voted for me or Dusty, who stays on the show. Because I told Jeff, bro, you want the old Vince. It's not there anymore. I'm not the old Vince. And RD, I learned something back then, 2 things that I learned. And this is why I take this the way I do. That's my point. I learned 2 things. I learned, number one, when you learn to put others before yourself, which is what the Bible teaches us. You know that, bro. You're teaching kids Sunday school. You put God first and everybody else second. But, when the minute, bro, I started putting everybody in front of myself, my life became so much easier, bro. By putting people over, by not saying bad things about people, by not talking behind people's back. And RD, let's face it, you know this better than anybody. We're both human beings. You're gonna screw up along the line every single day, but because you're a Christian, you're constantly gonna come back to that. So I come back to it every single day, every single day. So I always try to put others before myself. That's number one. Number two, bro, what I want people to see through this loudmouth, arm waving Italian, what I want them to see is I want them to see God through me. I believe I'm here to represent God. I'm here to represent him, bro. And in my own way, in the way he created Vince Russo, I want people to see him through me. So part of this, bro, is, and I want you to understand this, it's not so much, bro, wearing my heart on my sleeve. It is that, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is that, I'm not I'm not asking these questions of myself 15 years later. Was it because I was a heel in the ring? Was it not because I was a heel in the ring? My message really is, bro, to everybody out there listening, everybody, bro, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, you, whoever's listening to this broadcast, my goal is to get across to people, okay? Don't be so freaking hateful. Don't be ready to cut a promo on somebody or to point the finger at somebody or to bury somebody or to discredit. That's the way we are as human beings. That's what we're wired to do. But rather than attack, life in general would be so much more pleasant and loving for everybody if we put others before ourselves. And you put others over for the effort and what they tried to accomplish. And well, maybe they failed because of this, or maybe they failed because of that, or maybe this is where they fell short. But bro, you do it with love. You don't do it with viciousness. You don't do it with hate. You don't do it in a way where it's going to hurt other human beings. The way, RD, I'll be honest with you, it has hurt me over the past 15 years. I worked very, very, very hard at what I did. I gave my heart and soul to the wrestling business. And when I get discredited, it hurts me because of what I put into it. And at the end of the day, again, my question is, what is the point of hurting me? What is the point of discrediting me? It's like, RD, listen, bro, let's get back to where this conversation started. You got a book, The Death of WCW. I'm on the cover of the book. There are some things in the book. Yes, some nice things, some not so nice. But guess what, bro? You're on my show because I want RD Reynolds to sell his book and promote his book so RD Reynolds can make money and support his family. So I'm going to bring him on my show. I may not agree with the book. I know he put his heart and soul into, bro, I know what it takes to write a freaking book. Trust me. I know the work that went into this book. I wouldn't discredit this book if I wasn't the victim and if I wasn't the subject. That's why I take it personal. But at the end of the day, bro, I'm sitting here telling people, buy the book, read the book, support RD Reynolds, support Brian Alvarez. It's their opinions. These guys are working hard. These guys have to make a living. But my whole point is, bro, I just think this would be a much nicer place if we looked to put people over first before we look to accuse them, discredit them, or point the finger at them. Does that make sense to you, bro?
Certainly, and I appreciate you saying that and bringing me on the show to help support. And I did. I mean, whenever I put that in the thank yous, I mean, that literally you have a whole paragraph. I list like everybody else, including my wife, my son, everybody else. where I'm just saying, okay, I thank this person, I thank Blade Braxton, I thank my wife, I thank my son, I thank the people I work with, I thank Brian, da 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 da, and then there is a whole paragraph that thanks Vince Russo. And I also say, make sure you check out, his website, pyroandballyhoo.com. So I'm hoping, excuse me, that it is a mutual thing where you have me on, but it also is something where a lot of people.
RD, let me tell you something, bro. I'm sorry to interrupt you, RD, but RD, I want you to understand something, and I've said this to my producer, Chris, okay? Bro, when I read about people talking about me out there, like the dirt sheet writers, bro, and wrestlers too, when I read about them talking about me, bro, okay? RD, I swear to you, bro, I immediately want to bring them on my show, okay? With the end game being, listen, I'm here, say whatever you want to say to me. If I disagree with it, I'm going to say whatever I want to say to you. But bro, at the end, my ultimate goal is at the end of every one of those conversations would be to form a friendship with this person, to have Brian Alvarez and I like each other and respect each other. That's my end game. My end game is I'm not going to freaking bring, RD on here and rip him a new one and then he's going to go home and I'm going to go home. We're going to go like this, boom, boom, boom. I'm Italian. He's going to laugh at me. He's going to piss me off. We're going to go through all that. And guess what? At the end of the day, I'm going to wind up loving the guy. And let me tell you, bro, this is amazing to me. And I try to say I'm not going to come on here and preach, and I'm not going to come on here and preach. But bro, out of all these talk show people, the internet people that I've invited on the show, and you see, bro, I don't mention them by name. I'm not going to bring, they know who they are, but all the people that say bad things on me and I invite on the show because I want to make peace with them, right? And bro, the only one that has ever done this and come on the show is you. And bro, I swear to you, when you sent me that direct message, and that direct message says, I got to go to bed because I have to teach Sunday school tomorrow morning. That is the exact reason why you are on the show and why you and I connect. I was saying at the beginning of the show, I get mad at myself because I like you. That's why I like you, bro. Because at the end of the day, RD, we can disagree, we can yell, we can scream. We did a lot of that during this interview. You rested your hand like this. You told me to shut up. I was rude to you sometimes. I cut you off. But you know what, bro? After all that, however long it's been, you and I are both better people for it. Our relationship now is stronger than ever. I feel so good about this conversation we have. I feel so much more closer to you even than the other times. But it's because, bro, what our lives are based on and what our very foundation is. That's why you and I can do this. And that's why, bro, my job is at the end of the day for that to be an example. Can you understand where I'm coming from, bro?
I completely understand where you're coming from.
Bro, you got tears in your eyes, bro?
Do
you have tears in your eyes?
No, I don't have tears in my eyes.
Oh, bro, come on, bro.
I can pinch myself and see if I can make me cry. So.
But RD, I want you to understand that's the God honest truth. And bro, I can say this fully. Wait, hold on a second, bro. Hold on.
This is going to be something fascinating. While he's doing that,
I'm here.
Make sure you buy the.
No, put that down. Put that down. Here, buy the book. Listen, buy the book. The Death of WCW. Put it back on RD. That's my buddy, RD Reynolds. Buy the book. He put a lot of hard work, a lot of effort into this book. I don't agree with this book. That's okay. People are not going to agree. RD and I are two different people built differently. Obviously, as you can see by this podcast, I'm much better looking than him.
Absolutely.
A lot of other things like buy the book. Also, RD, now, I know you got the book a list, but you mentioned to me that you actually have 4 books. I want to know about the other 2 books and where can people pick up these books?
Well, the best place to go is if you go to WrestleCrap.com. That is my website. We have been around since April 1st, 2000. So in about 6 months, it will be our 15th anniversary. It's a website dedicated to comedy. Just looking at the silly things in wrestling, it may be, we were one of the first places on the internet to talk about the gobbledygooker. We were the first place to talk about the Shockmaster. We were the first place to talk about the Kiss Demon or a Dink the Clown or what have you, a Giant Gonzalez. Um, we were one of the first places that really looked at those and did, screen captures. Said, look at how silly that, the Giant Gonzalez, he has airbrush muscles on his butt. So WrestleCrap.com is the place. We have this is actually the fourth book that I have written. The original WrestleCrap book, WrestleCrap, the very worst of pro wrestling, came out in 2003, I believe. But it is still in publication today. A lot of people really enjoy it. It's very lighthearted, written in that manner. Then we did The Death of WCW, the original version. The 10th anniversary edition is the one we were talking about today. And then I also wrote a book called The WrestleCrap Book of Lists, which is just a silly book. We designed it from the get-go as kind of a toilet book. And by that I mean one you keep on the back of your commode, and whenever you go in there and you got 5 minutes to kill, you just flip through and you find a ridiculous list that you can laugh about. I wrote that with my broadcast partner Blade Braxton, who has been on who has interviewed Mr. Russo with me before. So yeah, those are the books. You can pick them up really cheap at WrestleCrap.com. I have a stack of them that I autograph and send out to people. So
three quick questions, and it has nothing to do with what we talked about. First of all, I got to ask you, RD, are you sitting in your office right now?
I kind of, sort of.
I see that poster behind you, Meet the Writers. Do you have a poster on your wall with the cover of The Death of WCW?
I do not, no.
Come on. I just want to see if you saw me every day when you woke up in the morning, bro.
No, I don't. And to be fair, the only reason that this is hanging up is because I was coming on the podcast and I didn't want to have just a blank wall behind me. It's also the reason why I have like the Thunder mixer. I don't generally have this just sitting out in case I need to, crush something not ice, because this fine product that I have will not crush ice. So I kind of made a little makeshift studio here today.
Now, I want to ask you this, RD, and you probably didn't, but I want you to. You have to, bro, because I got some scoops, bro, like never before. Did you happen to listen to my last week's podcast? And I could understand if you didn't. I know it was long, with Donna Lauren, Susie, the cheerleader from the original Batman.
No, I didn't, but I will go back and do that. I actually had a lot of problems at my real work, so I was basically working 24/7 there. So
there are great insights there, bro. Like I tried to get like stories out of her that I never heard before, and I was marking out like a lunatic. Tell Blade too. I don't know if Blade heard it, but bro, there's some really good content in there. I want to ask you my last question, bro. Now, RD, do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
I'm 45.
45. Okay, I'm 53. So and you have one child?
Yep.
Son, daughter. Boy. I'm sorry, son, daughter.
Son. I have a 9-year-old boy.
9-year-old boy. Are you still married?
Yep. Oh yeah. She's not getting rid of me that easy.
Listen, I got to ask you this, bro. This Tuesday, RD, is like a freaking holiday to me, and like I'm not even kidding with you. Whether I got to camp out on the sidewalk at Best Buy, whatever I got to do, I'm definitely going to Walmart at 12 midnight, whatever the case may be. The original Batman series comes out on Blu-ray this Tuesday. We've been waiting for this forever. Now, RD, I know, bro, it's got like a pricey price tag on this thing. I don't think I'm going to be able to find this thing for less than $188 plus tax. But is this something now that you go out and you buy immediately?
I won't, for one reason. And that is because my wife always gets angry that I never give her anything to buy me for Christmas. So I'm going to not get it. I'm going to torture myself by not having access to it for 2 months. but I will be as happy as a little kid as a little kid on Christmas Day as anybody could ever be. So.
Well, I give you credit, bro, because I thought about that because obviously that's the gift for me. I can't wait the 6 weeks. So listen, RD, if we got anything out of this interview, bro, we're going on like 3 hours.
Yep.
I think if we got anything, we can both agree. You said it in your own words. You kill the independent wrestling business.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can use that as a headline. I
Yes.
can run with that.
When you write the death of independent wrestling, I want to be one of the 5 people on the cover. And please don't interview me. Just write it.
Hey, listen, bro, RD, I want to tell you, listen, bro, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If I said anything out of line, out of school in its interview, and I know I did. I know things came out of me in the heat of the Italian moment. I cannot apologize to you enough. As I said, bro, at the top of this interview, I cannot say enough kind things about you of, being the one guy to come on my show and talk to me about this, not once, not twice, but 3 times, knowing we're going to argue, knowing I'm going to get upset, knowing, you're going to get upset. I can't put you over enough for that, but I will tell you this, bro. I hope you feel the same way. Our friendship is tighter now than it ever was before. And I tell you, bro, from the bottom of my heart, we might not agree on everything. I love you as a human being. I know where your heart is. I know what you're doing. And I want to thank you for coming on, the show, The Swerve, and spending this time for me. And again, I hope we can leave this stronger now than we ever were before.
Oh, I think so, absolutely. I think so, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so RD, again, thank you. The death of WCW. You want to show it one more time, bro?
Oh, one more time. And it's available not only in paperback, but it's also available in Kindle. And we have a hardcover edition. And I don't think I've told anybody this, but you, Vince Russo, are the reason for the hardcover edition.
Why is that?
Because when Brian and I started working on the new version of the book, Brian was, when he found out that it was Forgiven was your first book, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it was a hardcover version.
Yeah, but that was their choice, bro. I had nothing to do. They told me they wanted.
No. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that was there. We know that was not your choice. That was ECW Press's choice.
Yeah.
Brian said that he would work on the new version of the book, but there had to be a hardcover because if Vince Russo could get a hardcover, we had to have a hardcover.
There you go. Hey, listen, I want to ask you. I'm not that up on technology and everything like that, RD. I'm behind the times like that and everything else. When you talk about Kindle, does that mean like we buy the book, we throw it in the fireplace? What exactly does that mean?
That means that you can, if you have it on, you can read it on, instead of having a physical copy of the book.
I know, bro, it was a joke. Yeah.
I'm trying to help you. I didn't know. There's some people that really don't know what it means. I didn't know you were so savvy.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm savvy, bro. I know what a Kindle is. Hey, listen, I also want to say this, and we're going to close, bro, because I've held you all afternoon over here, and I think it's good.
I'm missing all my football games. I got to see if I'm winning.
Yeah, and I think this was a great podcast, bro. But whether people agree with you or me, they'll watch it, and that's all that matters, and I think that's great. But I want to tell you this, bro. Listen, I mean this. I got an open invitation to Brian Alvarez on this show anytime he wants to come on. I know you can't control Brian. He's his own guy.
That is a fact. I cannot control.
Yeah, but bro, listen, anytime he wants to come out, with my end game being that we end that interview the same way you and I are ending this interview right now. We respect each other. We're friends. I tell you I love you. End of story. Now we move on and we have different perspectives of each other.
I will do what I can to see if I can get Brian on your show.
Okay, well, RD, go enjoy your football game again. I thank you for the time today. The Death of WCW, you can buy it now online, ECW Press, in the bookstore, wherever you have to find it. And RD, I hope to have you on again as a guest some other time when your new book comes out and we can talk about something else.
Yeah, I won't interview you for that new book either. So
okay, all right, man.